Hi guys, I'm here in Prague with
Lampariello and Anthony Loda.
and the doggy. We are, for the people who don't know Anthony, once again, we already made a video, but Anthony, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm an English guy living in Prague. I have a YouTube channel. If you search for Fluent and Czech, it talks about learning Czech and languages in general.
He's a pretty cool guy, makes wonderful videos about language learning, so check the Czech. Before we talked about speaking fluently, and you said something that really caught my eye and my ear, so to say, the fact that in order to speak, you have to speak, right? But a lot of people are scared of speaking, so can you tell me a little bit about that, your experience?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people say, I'm afraid to look stupid, I'm afraid of speaking, and how do I get over the fear? And this is a really important thing to me, because you can get over fear in one of two ways I discovered.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is to be brave. You prepare yourself and you try not to blush and you feel nervous and shake and you do your best and you come away a bit embarrassed and you think, that was unpleasant, I don't want to do that again. And I did that many times, and all it did was not make me overcome my fear at all. It made my fear increase in a way.
So you were like,
yeah,
like when you throw yourself from a cliff, like, I can do that.
Exactly. I don't want to do that again, but this is the heroic way of facing fear. But what I discovered actually worked for me was to understand why I was afraid. And it was because I was worried that the person I was speaking to would think I was an idiot. That they would think I was faking, that I didn't know the language very well.
This is with Czech.
With Czech, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, with Czech. So I thought, these people are going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think my level of Czech is rubbish when I was just starting out. And I just realised, well, my level of Czech is rubbish. They would be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But so what? My goal is not to impress them, it's to communicate, to get the message across. When I accepted that, when I accepted the reality, I wasn't afraid anymore. So I went in knowing that my goal wasn't to impress them, but rather to communicate. And with that in mind, I judged the conversation not on whether they thought I was great or whether I was using fancy words at the height of my vocabulary, but rather whether the communication worked.
Wow. So this is what it's all about. Do you have okay, you're talking about what happened to you. Do you have anybody in mind to which this happened?
Yeah, I was telling Luca this story about a friend of mine who'd been studying Czech very intently for years, and she had a massive vocabulary, but she said to me, I just can't really say anything, not even a conversation with a few words. So I said, that's because you're wanting to impress them with all these big fancy words. I want it instead to be about making communication happen and accomplishing goals. So with me, you should go out not just for the purpose of showing off, but for the purpose of making something happen. So I took her into the city centre and said, I want you to go to this ice cream shop, ask to sample 3 or 4 different flavours of ice cream before choosing the one you wanted. Oh, I don't know how to say it. And I said, oh, well, yes, you do. You've got a massive vocabulary, but we'll just have a little practice on simple things like saying, well, excuse me, I know my Czech isn't perfect, but I'd like to say, can I please try some different ice creams, blah, blah, blah. And I sent her away on her own. And 5 minutes later, she was skipping up the street holding an ice cream, and she said that was an exhilarating experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was not about the words, it was just about the act of communication. It was a public victory, well, not public, but public and private victory.
Yeah.
It was
because she no longer was worrying about, will I look good? Will I sound fantastic? But rather, will I now be able to accomplish some goal, something, make something happen that I've never been able to do before? And that was have a communication with this ice cream shop assistant, sample some flavours, and it gave her the confidence then that she could do it again.
So people this is the point. People don't lack confidence. They hoard like hoarders, word hoarders. They collect words, but they actually don't go and use them. So you can actually collect words for the rest of your life, but if you don't talk, it's never going to happen.
It's great to have an advanced vocabulary, but it isn't going to help your conversational ability. So I say you can build up this sort of framework of communicative ability with a very small vocabulary. I would estimate 100 words, and you could have very simple conversations to get your message across. And it might be sometimes like, foot hurts, need cream, something like this. And they'll go, oh, you... And then they'll hold up this thing and you'll go, yes, yes. And then you've accomplished a goal. You've made something happen. And you've seen that language has a real purpose then. It's not just showing up, not just learning words. It really is for exchanging ideas and making things occur that wouldn't have occurred without you being able to do that. It really boosts your confidence.
Yes, absolutely. You know what I do with my students the first time is say, look, you don't know anything about language. Let's have a conversation. And say, well, what do you mean a conversation?
Yeah.
We literally start having a conversation. We build up on that, and they say, wow, I had a conversation for 20 minutes without knowing almost anything, and this gives them the confidence that they can do it.
Yeah.
It's actually easier than people think. But if you don't do it, it never happened. You can spend, I think it's understandable if you want to have input before output, but the problem is that you can have input for the rest of your life, but it's not going to magically transform itself into output. The word, you've noticed this amazing thing we were talking yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about, taking a stroll, the beautiful Prague, about the fact that you can read, but you might not understand. You might understand but not be able to read. You can speak but not understand. You can understand but not speak if you develop these abilities at different times and different speeds, right?
Yeah, in fact, this is one thing the one possible criticism of a lot of courses is that they are based on reading and writing, and you can become a really fantastic reader and a really fantastic writer and develop no conversational ability.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right.
So staying locked in your bedroom with the textbooks it's great that you're studying, great that you're learning, but its impact on your communication ability can be quite minimal.
So you were saying, just to conclude, you were saying, for example, that you told this lady to go to the ice cream shop, get some ice cream. What happens to a person who, let's say, a native English speaker who lives in the United States, but he's learning Italian. He can't go to there's a lot of Italians, but let's suppose that he doesn't have Italians just where he lives. What would you advise? To use the internet? To use Skype?
I have used Skype actually, because I've taken this idea with a few other languages now, and if I'm going to some foreign country. I went to Bhutan and decided to learn some Bhutanese. I went to Cambodia and decided to learn some Cambodian. Tsongkha, it's called Bhutanese. Tsongkha.
Tsongkha.
And I decided to learn a bit of these languages, and just enough to be able to have very, very simple conversations. And I was able to find people on Skype and just say, okay, I don't know anything. And they were really excited somebody's trying to learn a few words of these languages.
Absolutely. Like nowadays with the internet, you can do everything.
Yeah. There's never a problem. But the only thing I will say is that on Skype, you have to be very careful that the other person doesn't think that they're a teacher and you're a student.
That's another good one.
Yeah, it's really a language. It's trying to develop your conversational ability, your language ability, not just for them to be in the stressful situation of being a language teacher, even if they've got no experience with it. So try to keep the focus on developing the language communication. You can teach yourself the grammar and the vocabulary, but developing the language skill, the communication skill.
The biggest lesson of today is like language is about communication, right? It's not about teachers.
Well,
it
is if that's your goal. I mean, there can be people whose whole purpose is just to read novels or something in a foreign language or the poetry. But for most of us, we're learning a language, I believe, so we can talk to people.
Absolutely. Anthony, what can I say? Thanks a bunch, and hugs from Prague.
Bye.
Hi.